Conspiracy theories are most often a smokescreen to divert us from the true evil.
My dad was right. This family's money is dirty.
Imagination is far more fascinating than reality.
Welcome to Working for Uncle Henry, the podcast. I'm the series author and your narrator, Angela Mullins. Today, we hear more of Henry's worldview, especially regarding religion. You might find his statements controversial or troubling, but they are definitely thought-provoking. Chapter 29. Except for attending family meals, Parker kept his distance from Henry for the next few days. He couldn't decide if the Archer family was too messy to get involved with or if he was truly needed here. He couldn't bring himself to give up on Jennifer, not yet anyway. He strolled reluctantly to Henry's study to inquire about her status. Henry was tamping tobacco into an alligator-carved billiard pipe. "Have you heard from Jennifer? How is she?"
Dr. Marzoli reports that she is progressing, but the doctor believes the stimulus for this episode is different from previous, more profound.
Henry removed his pipe from his clenched teeth and scrutinized Parker.
Was there anything that happened in France that seemed significant?
We were kidnapped. Isn't that significant enough? Henry shook his head.
Not to have this effect on Jennifer. Few things affect a person who doesn't care about much.
Maybe she cares about more than you think. Parker combed his fingers through his hair as he reflected on their time of captivity. She got a little freaked locked up in that room. But then so did I. She never told me what happened when they took her out to Zachary. It was obvious she didn't want to talk about it. But I have no idea why. Henry lit and puffed his pipe.
And she said nothing when you found her in New York?
Parker shrugged. Just that nobody loved her. I assured her that wasn't true. Then something about her dad. Henry froze.
She mentioned Vincent?
Yeah, I couldn't make sense of it.
In what context? What were you talking about when she mentioned him?
Parker thought hard. I told her we'd been worried about her, that maybe Zachary had found her and taken her again. Then she mumbled something about her father.
So the mention of Zachary triggered a comment about Vincent.
Parker shook his head in confusion. I guess, but what does Uncle Vincent have to do with Simon Zachary?
Now, that is the question at hand, is it not?
Henry replied, wagging his pipe at Parker. Parker waited for Henry to elaborate. Finally, after much consideration, he did.
I think perhaps Zachary is trying to get to me through Jennifer, and he's using her father to do it.
But why?
Because Vincent Vincini is an easy mark. Throw enough money his way and he'll do whatever you want, including betraying his own flesh and blood.
Henry's tone grew harsher with each word about his former brother-in-law. You think he'd actually hurt Jennifer?
Not physically, I'd like to think. He's certainly already hurt her in every other way. But I'm sure he has no idea how dangerous Zachary is or what he's really up to.
You mean with the time travel stuff?
No, that was just one phase of his plan, a means to an end. His overall intentions are much grander. True power comes from money and information, not political position. More and more successful politicians are mere puppets with powerful people in the background, pulling the strings. They may be a technology giant or just someone who has access to information gained from modern technology. More information than one would have ever imagined a few years ago. With great information comes great responsibility. Initial motives for collecting information may truly be national security, but If those in control are not extremely trustworthy, that information will eventually be abused, used for blackmailing officials in order to get more funding, to gather more information, and so the cycle continues into a downward spiral of ethics, morals, and fulfilling the initial motives of the program. And there are people around the world with plenty of money who will support that endeavor. Parker pondered his uncle's surprising revelations. My dad believes the way the world is changing and going down the drain, it won't be long before God says he's had enough and comes back to end it all. That is a naive line of reasoning, Parker. It suggests God will act impulsively. One day he just decides he's had enough. Christians like your father fight and protest the very policies and events that are leading society down the road to the end. Parker shook his head. I don't understand. Shouldn't we take a stand against immorality and policies that what? Force people to live the way a certain group of people think they should live? You can't legislate morality. Do you see believers in the Bible protesting or boycotting or fighting? He didn't give Parker time to answer. If they had, they would have been crushed by the government, and their Christian message would have been convoluted with politics, which is, of course, what eventually happened. He shook his head passionately. But initially, they merely preached the gospel and stood up for their beliefs. We just need to maintain a free world in order to keep doing that for as long as we can, anyway. Even that will be taken away at some point. But for now, the desire is for freedom to express and practice our beliefs. Pax Romana. And that means others must have the same freedom, because once the government takes away one group's freedom, it becomes easy to take away others, including ours. Henry circled his lighter over his pipe and puffed successively. Swirls of smoke drifted past his furrowed brow and faded away. He turned his attention back to his speech. The First Amendment says freedom of religion, not freedom of Christianity. The mistakes Christians like your father make is to think it's necessary to suppress other religions to further the cause of Christianity. But that neglects the power of God to convict and draw people to himself, regardless of what else is offered to them. What your father does is alienate people. I can't disagree with you on that, but you mean to say you don't have a problem with cults or Islam or Hinduism? Define problem. I don't agree with their philosophy, but I don't oppose their right or freedom to teach whatever they want and exercise it publicly. At least one of those religions is not going away regardless. At the end, there will be one. He thrust up one finger. One false religion still standing against Christianity. You mean Catholicism? My dad thinks the Antichrist will be a pope. Henry smiled. I believe I'll let you come to your own conclusions on that. Some things one has to search out for himself. It makes it more believable. What about Satanism? Are you okay with that, too? They all must have their freedom, Parker, but, he said, raising his index finger, none of them gets to break the law in their practices. Basic foundational laws like murder. He tamped down the tobacco in the bowl of his pipe. No, the state should stay out of the church and religion, and the church should stay out of the state. Just let the church do its thing and not try to legislate morality. Just like the Jews were mistaken in thinking Jesus came to be a political leader. Henry's phone rang and he waved Parker out. Once again, the colonel had steered the conversation away from Parker's desired topic. Parker plodded dejectedly up the back stairs to his room, pondering what Simon Zachary might be up to and the possibility of Vincent Vincini in league with him. Parker tossed his phone on his bed and sighed. Was he ever going to find out what was going on in this family? Did he really want to know what was going on? What had he gotten involved with? Maybe he should leave. But where would he go? Why hadn't he already left? What was holding him here?
He glanced back at his phone. Maybe his mother knew more than she had told him. At times, she would be totally candid with him and speak off the record, meaning his father wasn't around to overhear. He picked up his phone and scrolled to his mother's contact listing. He sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the profile picture he had selected for her. A happy, contented smile. Although her life had not always been happy and content, she somehow made it appear that way. He breathed deeply, pressed the phone icon, and listened to the ringing tone.
Hello?
Parker could hear the smile on her face.
Parker?
Hi, Mom. There was a little catch in her voice as the idea sunk in it was him.
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you and everyone?
We're as you would expect us to be, but I'm not convinced of your personal status.
She always knew. Can you talk? Their code for is Dad around. She confirmed and asked what was on his mind. Well, I decided to stay in Virginia and work for Uncle Henry at his mercantile exchange. There was a soft sigh in the background. It's really interesting work. The books he has are unbelievable, but...
But is everything okay?
What do you know about Henry's business?
He buys and sells antiques. That's all I know.
She hesitated and her voice dropped.
Are you seeing otherwise? Please tell me nothing illegal.
No, not that I can tell. Just odd. I guess the fact that he's so secretive about it bothers me most. I just want to know what God's will is for me.
Remember Jeremiah 29:11?
Yes, ma'am. I heard that a lot at small groups in college, but I don't feel like I'm prospering much.
That scripture isn't talking about God having a plan for each of us so that we have earthly prosperity and success. Sometimes God's plan for us will involve pain, tragedy, and confusion, but it's all part of His overall plan to make us better people, dependent people. Money can hinder people from depending on God.
I think Uncle Henry depends on God. I'm just not sure he knows what he's doing.
If it makes you feel any better, I've never known my brother to not know what he was doing. What exactly does he have you doing?
Parker pondered the right words before answering. Cataloging books and the occasional delivery.
Nothing dangerous?
How was he to answer that? Say yes and have his mother more worried about him? Lie? He had walked that thin line too much already. But he also wondered why she would ask about danger. After a vaguely nervous chuckle, he asked, what makes you think there'd be danger?
I think my father played with danger, and Henry has trouble avoiding it.
Well, it's definitely faith-building, and I've learned to trust God in ways I never thought imaginable. That wasn't a lie. But he didn't miss the fact that he was sidestepping the question like Henry tended to do.
I don't suppose I can argue with that, but you have to decide for yourself if you're walking in God's will.
The fine line between the truth and a lie to protect the ones you love can be a challenging dilemma. What would you do in Parker's situation? Thanks for listening. Let me know what you think about the podcast in the comments and share it with a friend.